Hi everyone, so I wanted to give some updates and spoilers on live feeds from the 8th, going into a little bit of the 9th today. There was a moonlit veto, so I'm going to go over who won that, as well as some of the talks going on and alliances forming. Alright, so Ian and Nicole F formed a final 2 alliance called the Million Club. Since they both have already won, they are the only winners in the game. If they win another 500,000, it would equal 1 million. So I think this is actually smart on Ian's part, but I definitely do not think he should trust her. I'm scared when I saw it. I was like, putting personal feelings aside and what I think, I do think the best chance for a former winner to win is against another winner. So I do think Ian is smart for this, but I do think he should make some more alliances with other people because he's very low on the totem pole and he will be targeted soon. People know his game and they know he's laying low. They will go after him soon. I actually saw on Twitter that him and Britt are still close. She posted that she couldn't love her little boy Blue more, and Danielle from BB3 and All Stars, the first one, posted a picture with him and she says that he's her favorite, that she loves him. And I was like, oh my god, imagine if Danielle and Ian were in the game and they played together. I would have been so for that. That would have been great. I would have loved that duo. What could have been? Memphis and Day and Cody all have Ian on their radar. They've all mentioned it before. They somehow forget that Nicole F was also a winner, especially Memphis. He has said, I think multiple times, that Ian won the game. He's the only one that's won the game. And people have corrected me like, well, Nicole F. And he's like, yeah, whatever. Ian did have a talk with Cody and tried to form something there, but it just didn't go as planned. I don't think Cody wants to work with him, or he didn't realize it. I mean, Cody likes his bro dudes and Ian's just not a bro dude. Cody asked him who he likes. Ian mentioned David. Ian's mentioned David before, that he feels cool with David. He likes David. I mean, David seems like a really nice guy. I don't know if he's pretending to be clueless about not knowing what POVs are and not knowing the game and not watching a season, but I'm hoping he's playing dumb. They also talked about liking Tyler, and Ian said that Cody's good if he wins HOH. They talked about the amazing race and how he was going to do it with Frank. They also talked about Nicole F. So, I mean, I was hoping this talk went well, but then Cody relied this back to Memphis. Him and Memphis have a pretty strong bond, considering the pre-gaming was strong this season, and I know there's always a sense of pre-gaming, but it seems that Derek and Dan joined forces and kind of are playing the game even though they're not really in the game. They wanted their best mate to make it far, kind of connected that, and you could tell who pre-gamed based on the connections they have and who didn't. I noticed that the first day when they were all brought into the house, and you could tell who was awkward and scared and who was thriving. So it sucks because I do think that the old school BB players are out of the loop. You could tell with Janelle and Kaser, they didn't involve them, even though I'm sure they did some type of pre-gaming, but like, it's different. Ian definitely, I mean, him and Kevin had a talk and they both said that they didn't pre-game, which, I mean, could be a lie, but you could tell who's out of the loop. Memphis made it pretty clear that he wasn't going to save Keisha if he was playing in the veto, which to me makes me realize if he's okay with losing Keisha, somebody that would have been a duo with him, that means he has pretty strong alliances in the house. Cody. And yeah, that's really unfortunate because then this makes the old school gang so much smaller and weaker that I don't even know how they'll be able to survive. Kaser tried to get Memphis to agree to use it. He tried talking to him and it just wasn't going anywhere. And then Memphis relies this back to Cody talking bad about Kaser, and yeah. He definitely also brought up Ian, and I did not like how they were talking about Ian. It was very negative and like not trusting him. Obviously he won, we know that. It could have been an easy way to put up 2 winners. I totally get that. I would have thought of doing that too, but obviously I like Ian, and just the way they were talking about him and what they were saying and how he's all paranoid all the time. Just like rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, God, I do not stand Memphis or Cody now. They picked players for the veto. Day came in super excited that she was hosting. I'm sure she'd make a great host for the first veto comp of the season. As to who is playing, Enzo, Kevin, Keisha, Cody, Ian. Kevin chose Enzo to play for him. Janelle and Keisha were talking about how sad, because you could tell like who doesn't have connections in the house, and Kevin doesn't really have connections in the house. And when it came to house guest choice, he looked around not even sure who to choose, so he chose Enzo. And I thought Enzo was gonna throw it, but Enzo ultimately wins the veto, which is a surprise. He won a comp. Yeah, I feel bad for Kevin and Keisha. This is not how I wanted it to start, and I'm feeling a little scared as to how the season is gonna go on. Kevin tried talking to Ian while they were playing chess to see where his head was at, if he was gonna save him. I don't think Ian was really giving in. Kaser had to talk with Ian, and I think Kaser was like kind of trying to reel in Ian. I don't know if Ian just isn't having it, but they do have a bond and they do have really nice talks. So I would love for them to work together, as a lot of people do. Just Ian needs to form like a strong alliance. I think maybe even if he would have won this first HOH, it would have been better for him in a sense, because then he would have been forced to make those connections but also get blood on his hands. Ian got his backgammon board, so at least they gave him something to do. I was watching him just rock and I was like, can they give him food? Can they give him the hammock? He had been sick all day. It was very hard for him to socialize. I just feel like who he confides in most in the house is probably Nicole F. He was telling her he was feeling sick and he doesn't know how he's gonna be able to compete because he's very slow right now, and this is the worst he's ever felt in the house. So I'm here scared he's gonna self-evict himself. But he's stronger than that, and Nicole F was talking to him and not to stress and not to worry about the comp, that she'll maybe try to talk to Cody to see if he doesn't put him up as a replacement nom. Like I mentioned, Enzo won veto, and he was talking to Tyler, and Tyler's like, yeah, I'll keep it the same, whatever. He went to Cody to talk about the veto, and he is so funny. Unrelated, but he has really great stories, and they were talking about the Meow Meow story and about how he used to sell crayons. He's such a character. He was talking to Cody and he mentioned, oh, so we back to Tyler or Taylor? So Memphis calls Tyler Taylor. He said it multiple times, and Keisha also called him Taylor, and Janelle's like, who's Taylor? And Keisha's like, Taylor, Trevor. I'm just like, oh my god, the amount of times that these people in the house get the name wrongs are hilarious. I think Kaser called Keisha Sheila and Cody calls David Kevin, which that one I'm like, yeah, I think Enzo was trying to see if he would get a reaction out of Cody about mentioning Tyler, but I thought that was so funny. That was like the first tweet I saw this morning when I woke up, and I was like, if only, right? I love Tyler his season, but now I'm like, oh my god, stop going after my faves. Right when feeds came back, Danny mentioned that Enzo's stack fell so hard that it knocked Keisha's to the ground. And I'm like, poor Keisha. Like, Keisha's probably going home this week. I think she was the target to begin with. So it just sucks. I see people on Twitter saying that she's a bad player, and she really isn't. If you watch BB10, she's not a bad player at all. I think she was at a huge disadvantage being an alternate this season and not making those preseason connections. This ruined me. Janelle and Kaser were talking about targeting David because he's really smart. Apparently he beat Ian at chess, and leaving Cody and Tyler there that they could work with them, and I'm like, guys, you're not gonna win this way. Like, it's already, they're at a disadvantage, and they're like, okay, like, we don't care who goes, Keisha goes home and it's just fine, like, we'll be able to be fine. I'm like, you guys are huge targets, they're always gonna go after you guys. I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know who's gonna win the next HOH. They have talked about the second HOH curse, that whoever wins the second HOH does not win at the end. So I guess we'll see. So that's all I have.